The Cthulhu mask on. But you have to get washed.
No, that is
probably
true.
Needs to be washed.
Yeah, it probably does.
Washed and air dried.
I know, right? Especially when you take a child out and feed them. You just gotta air dry them. Oh, we're live. Okay, so. What?
You don't notice when he's doing that sort of sarcasm and he's doing that just for you. I know he is.
Okay. So, where we left off last time, that is everybody's gummies. You want a lifesaver gummy? So where we left off last time? Do any of you weirdos sitting at the table remember?
How did we separated? Like, I got info, like, I had that meeting with the one detective guy who was like, hey, you know.
Yep.
Let me know. You ever want to do something sometime?
Yep. So, you all had headed home.
I shared
you went home
with Grandma
to a full packed house.
Mm-hmm. Does the butler answer the door again? You? No.
Yes. He's always there to answer.
Don't do any announcements, please.
No, that's his job. But
no.
But we are not fucking there right now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
As you hurtle yourself to fit through a hoop that is a square that is smaller than a kitten's tail.
Well, she's pretty small now.
I know, but you're flying and have no idea what's going on.
Okay, what's up?
But so where we come to now, in the present time where we begin this game session.
Yeah.
A week has passed.
Okay.
So, in that week.
Did I sprout any new, like, funky things?
Nope. We're going to rewind 3 days. Into the house of Raven Rainbow. Raven, you're awakened one morning by.
I opened the door, but.
Well, you normally, you have to go, and it's a good distance from the door. Because remember, you live there with your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, your second cousin, your third cousin. So if somebody's knocking this time, there's nobody else that's answered the door. So you're gonna get a little bit of a walk.
I'm going to open the door.
Okay. So it takes you a few minutes. No, it's not one of those. So standing at the door is a drow wearing green colors. He's wearing a green vest and a green pair of pants. He's got a nice pair of shoes on.
We got a nice pair of shoes.
He looks at you. He goes, "Are you Raven Rainbow?"
Yes, sir.
This is for you. He hands you a letter.
Thank you, sir.
So you take the letter. You open it up.
I open it up. I read it.
Dear Raven, I hope this missive finds you well. Please come see me when you have the earliest of your convenience. Signed, Matron Ebenshard.
Thank you, sir.
Are you gonna ask who the hell is this?
No.
So you remember that that's her grandmother. So you know where they live.
Yeah, and I go like.
Okay, so you basically end up following the drow then if you head right there.
I am right there.
And I imagine when you got up, you were dressed for the day.
Clothing on.
I had clothing on.
Okay, so you grabbed your equipment. We'll say it takes you a while. You got ready. You walked out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So you are headed to the Elven Quarter, which is conveniently within that 4 to 8 block radius of your home base in the Gnome Quarter.
Okay.
So you get there, and what do?
She goes get a glass of tea.
A glass of tea.
No, I'm doing the
Sounds a lot like a glass of pee. Oh, she's gonna spit it from her nose. Yes.
Barely.
Oh yeah, love it. Not the glass of pee, but the spilling through the nose. Of the tea of pretty lady with the book instead of flavored of caffeine. Okay.
What are you gonna do when you get to the door?
I knock on the door.
So when you knock on the door, there's a gnome that answers the door.
Hello, sir. I'm here to see blah blah blah.
So he goes, oh yeah, blah blah blah. Is give me a minute.
I'm
He closes
blah,
the
blah,
door.
blah because I'm not printed.
No, it's okay, don't worry. So he closes the door. A few minutes later, a drow gentleman comes out, and it's that same one that was wearing the green outfit. He looks at you and goes, "Ah, very well. Follow me." Opens the door, and he leads you down a hallway into the basement, and then like you see that once you enter the basement, there's like bunk beds in there. There's row after row after row of bunk beds, and there's figures that are like sleeping. Like you see figures in the darkness that are playing cards. You hear the sounds of people talking. You don't speak Undercommon, do you? Or do you remember if you speak Undercommon? Because we never figured out what languages Raven spoke. So, no, we did last time, didn't we? We said it was gnome, dwarf. No, I could have swore we had this conversation.
No, we didn't.
Tara, does any of this sound familiar?
Uh-uh.
No. Maybe I'm reliving an argument with Stephanie
Probably.
here. Okay, give me a few seconds here. You know Common, Dwarven, Elvish, and Gnome.
You might want to write those down.
Those are the languages that you know that I have
You might
written
want to
here.
repeat that.
So it's Dwarf, Gnome, Common, and Elf.
Slow down.
Please.
Give her the rundown. But so you don't speak their language.
Dwarf, common,
Elven, and Gnome. That's your freebie. That way you're not like, si hablo español,
So it's only 4 languages?
no hablo inglés, or parlez-vous français? I don't know how to say no English in France. French fancy talk. But so you basically are led through this room with bunk beds and figures in the darkness because you have low light vision, but it's starting to get a little darker in some places in here. She's saying, there you go, monkey. So, after a few minutes, you are walking through the dark and basically being escorted. You are led to a small door, and it's small because it looks like it's made for like somebody of like, well, for you it's not small, but for the drow it's small. So he kind of knocks, ducks his head, opens the door, closes the door behind him, opens the door back up, turns around, gives you the 1 minute finger, closes the door. A few seconds, like you hear the sound of voice or something. You want to give me a D20 roll? If you got it in you. I don't know, because is there anything you'd like to do while you're waiting? Anything you'd like to do with that 13 roll? Apply it to anything while you're waiting here?
Listen for something.
Okay. So what was your roll?
13.
Plus 5?
That makes it 18.
Oh, I'm going to get you the math yet. So with a roll of 18, you end up hearing, yes, that's fine. No. Put those papers away. No. You hear sounds of shuffling and everything. 2 seconds later, the door opens. Like you hear the sounds of the footsteps coming up to the door with that roll. Okay. So now that you are open the door and you are being
Being shown
motioned
the end?
to come into the room.
Oh no, we did. We did.
Okay. So we've had that language discussion, haven't we? Okay. Okay. So we'll give you one for feedback. Okay. So I knew that we had that conversation at some point. It's okay. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm giving you funny faces. So you were motioned into this room. It's a small brick room. There's a desk, and there's like a candle, and the room has like filing cabinets in it, and like a big, huge chest is like being used as a desk in front of you. And like there's small like gnome and dwarf and like human size like stools in the room.
Oh,
Why would there be a pig? What?
Didn't she use a pig for a footrest?
No. That's
I
kind
could
of
have sworn that's what you said that she used for a footrest.
No, like-
or was that the guy's name?
no. Like she used one of her servants like as a footrest at one
Oh.
time.
Did she refer to him as pig? Because I remember
No.
that. Lies!
Go back and listen to the sessions then, Honky. So
Honky your ass.
when you come into the room, it is Madame Evanchard, and she looks at you and goes, "Oh, Raven, have a seat."
I did agree.
She goes, "Would you like something to eat or drink?"
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Well, I guess we'll get to business then. She takes a piece of paper. Well, if you sit, you find a what kind of chair do you sit in first? So we can set the ambiance.
Wait, did you say that there was?
There is a gnome-sized stool in there. So you take the gnome-sized stool. So she has to get up, and she has a piece of paper in her hand, and she hands you this piece of paper, and when you look over it, it says,
"Don't fuck with my granddaughter."
No. For all you might know, it might say, "I need you to murder my granddaughter."
I know.
So, I mean, you never know until I get it out of my mouth. So, this paper says on it that she wants to hire you as a bodyguard.
Okay.
Remember, you are a 4th level rogue, and you are a member of a thieves guild. So it gives you connections and stuff. So you sign on. So do you take a look at the amount of money or anything?
I take a quick glance at how much the money is.
It's 400 to begin with, and 800 when you get back.
Ma'am, I have a quick question. What does it mean when we're getting back?
Oh, that part we'll discuss very shortly. She goes, "So, do you want the big bag of money?"
I'm not doing it for the money.
Oh, don't do it! Don't do that! You might want to be like, I think that's bad.
So she
She
goes, "Well,"
she'll keep the money.
she goes, "Regardless, this is yours, and there's 800 more coming your way. Be back here in 4 days." 4 days later, which brings us back to where we began with the full week. So, you find yourself sitting in an upstairs sitting room, in a grand and opulent room with a large table. At this large table is gathered 2 individuals that you have, well, no, excuse me, 1 individual that you have seen before.
So I'll eat all of them.
So, this figure is none other than Evan himself. You remember Evan? He's a drow, bald head, metal teeth, wears the chains around his waist. We fast forward it through that adventure. but he was your mercenary companion that went on the boat with you.
What's he want?
He was accompanied by a dwarf named Harold.
Short-term memory loss. Sorry, Paul.
So we'll go into who else is there. So also gathered there is Bluebell Silverfoot.
Did I have to dress formally for the meeting?
I don't know what formal is. I don't know what formal is here. I mean,
the fancy pants dress for like that sort of formal.
well, I mean, as far as you know, you were just yanked out of the hallway when you were on your way out for the day.
Okay.
Is actually what would have ended up happening. Your grandmother would have you've been walking down the hallway, and then your grandma's like, "Can I see you for a moment?"
Okay.
And so you find yourself in this room. So she looks at the three of you, and she takes out a cigarette and lights it with a candle.
Graham, Mom's gonna be mad at that.
She goes, well, she's just gonna have to take one for the team.
Can I watch?
She smiles like that oh my granddaughter smile. I'd beat her if I didn't love her. She looks at you and goes, we're going to take a little trip. She goes, Raven.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, well, stick close to Evan.
Okay. Are we going after the door?
Evan smiled, huh?
Are we going after the door? The doorknob knocker thingy.
She goes, well, if you're going to be forward with it, yes. I have a rundown on an item that we are going to have to take a little errand for.
Okay. Had Graham and Blue already discussed all the information from the investigator, inquisitor?
If you would have told her anything from that, she would have, it just would have been that same smile you just got.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say a word to you.
Okay.
I hate to put it that way, but that would be the reaction that you would get out of it.
That's all good.
Okay. So, fast forward to the big question. She goes, we are getting ready to leave now. She goes, is there anything that you need to go get?
No, but can we have one of the boys run a message over to the what's it in charge of the guard to let him know that she can be gone for a bit?
She looks at you and goes, no.
Alright, let me go take care of that real quick.
No.
Okay then, I'm cool with that.
She goes, you're disappearing.
Oh, okay. I'm small enough, I'm sure that won't be much trouble.
Actually, you know that you can turn invisible.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this is something new that's come across in the last week or
so.
So
when we discussed how
we never discussed the invisibility.
Okay, so as a pixie, because you're not, now with that full on lost in space fucking bullshit.
Okay.
So, natural invisibility. A pixie remains invisible even when it attacks. This ability is constant, but the pixie can suppress, resume it as a free action.
Okay. So then since I now know this, when she mentions the disappearing, I disappear.
Okay. Now, one of the other things, just like we had discussed on our first session where you started playing this character, that ability to make those special arrows.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to let me know how many arrows you have, or how many arrows you need, you have or you're going to buy, because we'll subtract that out of your money. Because this is one of those things that finding supplies for you guys.
Do I have a bag of holding?
Have you ever given your character a bag of holding?
Maybe.
We are gonna say that yes, you do have a bag of holding.
Okay. And there's how many types of poisons that I can make?
So it's not so much poison, but it's
Charms or whatever.
so you have the spell abilities confusion. You must touch the target. Dancing lights, detect thoughts, dispel magic, entangle.
Can you write those down for me? Because I don't.
I will.
Okay. Because if we're gonna have combat or anything here or anything soon, I'm gonna need to know that stuff.
Okay. Well, when combat comes up, we'll broach that one again.
So let's say.
But as far as like the arrow subject, the special arrows, there's a memory loss one and a sleep one you can
do. Okay. So how about 150 each?
Okay, so if you want 150 of each, then you have no money left.
Okay, let's make it 100 of each. Or maybe 75 of each.
169 gold. And then like you're basically going to end up requesting like these people to create arrows that are going to end up being like 1 gold a piece. So
well, wouldn't I be able to just buy the arrows and then I can enchant them myself?
You need a base beat, which has to be a masterwork.
Oh.
Which means like it has to be a little fancier. So out of 169 gold, divide that 2, that would give you 83 arrows of one and 84 arrows of another.
Okay, so let's just do like 75 and 75. That way there's still some cash left over.
You said 75?
75, 75.
Ooh.
What?
Ooh, that bag is so light. 19 gold.
Okay.
In fact, like I will tell you this much. Bill cannot remember the last time her bag was this light as far as money.
Oh, okay. You're talking about that bag. Okay.
Yeah, like this is like, this is like worse than that time that you had that sure bet on that cat fight. And by cat fight, I mean that those 2 women that were dressed up like cats and fighting at that bar that the other members of the guard took you to that night after duty. So
just means I'm gonna have to be a little stealthy with my pickpocketing.
Okay, so we're gonna roll over to you, Raven, aka Miss Lily. You have quite a lot of stuff on you, and I think as we took it down, that I don't see that any cash has been on here. So you have the starting 400 gold pieces that you were paid. Out of that 400 gold pieces, is there anything that you think you might need, want, or desire?
Do we automatically have rations to bring with us? Is that an automatic you're giving us?
No.
Josh?
Yeah.
It's actually 850.
So you have 850?
Gold pieces.
Nice.
Is that plus the 400 that you were just giving? Oh, yeah, I didn't have that.
So you had gold already in your possession?
Nope.
Okay. Because, like, I don't know what you got on your notes there, because, like...
It was 852, and it's been 3 gold.
Okay, so whenever your character was saved on this file, it did not save that portion of it, because it was probably for the other thing. Okay, so is there anything that you want to get out of that 850 gold?
850 plus the 400 she just got for Granny.
9, 10, 11, 12. 1,250.
I think I'm just gonna grab like a little more tools, like
Now, see,
maybe a couple.
you have.
Food.
Oh, you need food?
Yeah, the hungry food.
So if you ask, so we'll skip to that part. As soon as you guys are like, well, what about food? She will tell you that it's covered. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
So, like, usually, like, you guys have never been on an adventure like this, but that portion is covered, so you don't have to worry about food. Now, unless like there's like things like liquor or tobacco or candy, things that an employer wouldn't supply you with. No? Okay. So.
Oh, is Evan's friend coming with us?
Harold?
Yeah.
So when you ask about Harold, Evan will slyly smile at you and say, "Oh, he's handling some business for me with Essex."
Oh, okay.
He's making amends for a certain joke he made.
Oh,
he's gonna be running the house while I'm gone.
Oh no, he didn't.
You know the subject. So we have settled that, and we are on to getting into the action.
Wait, I was getting tools.
So, okay, your tool conversation, we'll roll back around to that. So, you have a thing of thieves' tools, trap makers' tools. So, I mean,
wait, hold on. Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, you're pretty much set.
Oh, do I have any of those? Then never mind.
It would take you 35 gold to get both. Tara, it would take you 35 gold to get
How much do I have left?
You have 19 gold.
Oh, wait.
Are you sure? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
do I have any tools or anything else on this character? I thought she would have had something.
See, now with your character, you have not had a reason to break into houses.
But with her being able to disappear and stuff.
Now, just because you're able to disappear and stuff
doesn't mean I can break it.
Doesn't give you full reign as a city guard member to break into people's houses and you know that theft without belonging to a member of a guild in the city could get you kind of in trouble. If say you broke into a house, right? And you unknowingly broke into a house that say members of the Gloved Hand were breaking into, and it's one of those moments of, wait a second, what are you doing in here? You're in my house. That doesn't work. And then, wait a second, don't we know you?
Well, I can't do any of my sneaky shit.
No. If you mention that you were looking for something like that, how do you go about it?
I don't know.
So you ask Grandma?
I have a side discussion with Grandma about where we're going. Am I going to be able to do any of this sort of stuff?
She looks at you and goes, well, I don't know. She goes, I wouldn't recommend it where we're going to end up at.
Okay.
They like to cut thieves' hands off.
Oh yes, mine are very nice. I'd like to keep that. And I do that.
Okay.
Should I make sure to leave any and all guard here?
So she will actually provide you with a suit of armor, same makeup of the armor that you have right now, but it will be without the guard insignia and everything.
Okay.
So that way, it's you have something, but people aren't going to be like, what?
Okay. So I can still be devious.
Yeah.
I can't be ha ha ha.
Well, I mean, that's up to you. Well, she, you would hear her say that as well.
You see me very, very obnoxiously rolling my eyes.
I didn't say that.
If you said it out loud, that's what they're
I meant
saying.
out of character.
So
I meant out of character.
now that we're done with our room of snarkiness,
Oh, we just getting started.
I know, right?
Let's go.
Okay, so your grandmother will lead you all out of the house and into a carriage. And the carriage has been waiting. So the four of you get aboard this carriage and you are off. And it's one of those silent rides unless anybody says anything. Raven, you gonna ride in silence?
I'm not riding silence.
Okay.
Visible, invisible. Visible, invisible.
So every time you do that, your grandmother goes, one of these days you're gonna get stuck like that.
Well, you know what? I would have to blame my other grandparents for that.
When you get stuck in either one, I'm not fixing you. So, other than you playing the visible, non-visible game.
I stop after Grandma's playing.
Okay. So, about a 15, 20-minute ride. Then it stretches into a 40-minute ride. Then an hour ride. Then an hour and a half. Then 2 hours. Then 3 hours. Then you hear Evan say, I have to go pee. She goes, what? She goes, she knocks on the ceiling.
Good.
What?
What's this bag of folding? Do I have a cup?
No. No, you do not have a cup. So the carriage stops. What do you all do?
Invisible, and I follow them out and I stretch.
Okay, so
I stay close enough to the carriage so that if something happens, I can close
So-
back in.
when you come outside the carriage, there is no sign of the city. You the last time you were outside the city, you went by ship.
Mm-hmm.
So you were instantly surprised by the amount of woods and trees that are on the sides of the road. You see that there is a small stone wall on either side of the road. There is enough space for one carriage to pass on each side and foot traffic path in the middle. So basically people walk in the middle, carriages go either side down left or right.
No jitsus. Looking around for jitsus. Like I've seen before, a jitsu carriage.
So as Evan's peeing, you see a brightly colored wagon. And it rolls by, and a man with a bald head and a mustache is driving it. And it's 4 heavy Clydesdales, and they have red and yellow silk, tied to the bridles and stuff. They roll past you.
And I go over for it and I see Grandma and I'm like,
So your grandma's inside the carriage.
Grandma, the carriage has just went past us. One of those jitsus.
She looks at you and goes, we don't mess with them. She goes, what did you do?
I didn't do anything, but it looks like the same one that, last time around.
She goes, well, mind your manners then.
I'm not doing anything. They run on by.
So Evan gets back in.
Everything come out okay there, man?
He goes, yeah. I remember to shake and everything. But that's really personal. Why do you ask these questions? What is wrong with you? Anyway. She goes, well, if we're done with the party talk, she knocks on the top of the ceiling again.
Are you back in the carriage before we go off?
I've already.
So stop.
I'm sorry.
Well past sundown. Who follows first?
Me.
So when you get out, you are standing that coastline, and you can smell salt water in the distance.
Am I a little nauseated?
As you have low light vision, you can see that you are actually standing next to a small little river or estuary, basically. There is a ship waiting in the distance.
You're taller than me, Shrumpy.
You're smaller than us.
Anyways, we write things, so stop screwing around, please. We figured out who was taller than who with that whole entire phallus waving contest that you, Stephanie, and her had the first time out.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I thought that was like
no, we solved that a long time ago. Anyways, so you can see in the distance that there is a ship waiting.
there's a ship.
So you tell her about the ship?
Yes.
I tell her about the ship.
Okay. So, do you say anything about said ship, or?
I don't know if there's no other storm.
She looks at you and goes, no, we're headed north.
Okay.
So, after about 15, 20, 30 minutes of waiting, a rowboat comes up. And your grandmother gets in. So does Evan. Do you follow?
I'll follow.
Okay, so from here on, you spend the next 4 days aboard a very strange ship. Kind of like, it's not like the ship that you were on before that you took south. Instead, this one is piloted by gnomes, and they feed these little black rocks into an oven.
Steam ship.
Yep, exactly. But since steam technology doesn't really exist, that widely known, it's still one of those, ooh. So the ship that you are on leaves the bay after a few days of traveling north, and it proceeds north into another bay and then up a river. After 2 days travel, you all get out on the side of the riverbank.
Just around the river bend.
So as you are disembarking, give me a d20 roll.
Do it. I vomit.
What's your roll?
5.
5? Okay.
I rolled a 12.
You rolled a 12? So, Raven, what you see out of the woods is you see a man in a white robe wearing sandals, accompanied by a man wearing kind of like the same kind of robe, but it's kind of shorter up to his knees. And he has like pieces of armor on mixed in with this robe, and he has a sword on his side.
But no offense to the people that actually do watch this and wear socks with sandals. But I swear, if you said the guy that had sandals that he had socks on as well, he'd be like,
I don't know if they would have wore socks with sandals. But
no offense, but it's like,
if you saw them, Lily,
Cold,
you would see them and you would know them as being traditional Romans.
well, it's just don't do it so fashion.
Okay, anyways, other than fucking socks with goddamn sandals. Sorry.
My socks.
Lick my socks with my sandals. Anyways, so you were the first one to see them, and Evan looks at you and goes, "Should we say something?"
I say, I tell him.
So you tell them about them, and you're gonna matron Evan Shard. You tell her.
No, I'm talking.
You tell your employer, grandma. So matron Matron Ebenchard is what you tell?
Just said the grandma.
No, I gotta use the
No.
fancy fucking name. So you tell the matron mother that that you see these figures? She goes, ah, yes, they must be waiting for the next ship or next stage of our trip. She goes, Raven, go and ask them if they're waiting for travel.
I go and ask them, hey, are you waiting for travel?
So when you come up to them within a few feet with that question, the one that's wearing the blue robes goes, halt, stranger, approach no further. And he looks over his shoulder at the other one. He goes, the one in the white robes goes, Tiberius, it's okay. He looks at you and goes, yes, we are waiting for the transport. Do you wish to make camp with us?
1 second, please. I walk over to them. Is there
Matron.
I tell them yes, they're waiting for transport.
So by like this time, like they start approaching, and like he calls out and he goes, hail, strangers. He goes, tarry thee a conversation.
I like your grandma.
So your grandmother looks at them and goes, very well. And he comes forward. He goes, I am.
She's getting sugar for her raspberry.
Okay, because like I'm hearing this weird sound behind me.
It's not a cat.
So it's okay, thank God. Something weird sitting near me that shouldn't be. Like, what the fuck? He goes, my name is Graven Roman, and this is my bodyguard Tiberius. He goes, we're waiting for the Raven's Claw. He goes, if you wish, we are going to eat a simple meal while we wait. Do you wish to join us? Your grandmother looks at them and goes, we'll be along shortly. Tell us, is it just to the path up ahead? He looks at her and goes, yes, it is, it's a few leagues up ahead, and we'll come to a clearing, and if you have your map, it'll be marked out just as it says on the map. So he bows his head, and him and his bodyguard disappear. They don't disappear literally, but like they turn around and walk off. And like as they walk off, like you see the man with the sword keeps turning around every few feet, and like he watches you all while they walk off.
You cannot do that. It's only I.
No.
Okay, other than fucking invisible, non-invisible. Like it's gonna get really annoying real fucking fast with that joke.
He started it.
Yeah, and you're fucking delirious, so tone it down there, buddy. Wow. Into the Cookie Monster, please. Yeah, I know. No more sugar for you. That's why you're delirious.
There should be like one left in there.
Yeah. That's why she's delirious. It was all that sugar.
No. Hey, your kid came up with this.
Okay, so now with where you guys are at, so your grandmother looks at you and goes, why don't you all lead the way?
Good question. Does my character know the way?
Well, assumingly because where you're standing at is like the bank of a river, and like you see through the trees that there is a path through the woods.
I'm gonna let her and Evan go ahead of me.
Okay.
I'm gonna be walking a little closer to Granny.
Okay. So.
I go and follow the path.
Okay. So you all within a few feet, like I don't know whether you keep walking or anything, but you walk down the path and like you soon come upon the two of them sitting there, and they are eating a loaf of bread, and they are eating these little green things.
Do the green things look familiar in any way?
No, not at all. And so when they notice you looking, he goes, would you like an olive?
Thank you, but no thank you.
He goes, they grow all over. He goes, they grow all over Pax Ramonia.
I like our grandma.
She holds out her hand for one and then eats it, like puts it in her mouth and eats it. Oh yes, that's very cool. Because it's kind of vinegary. I go, oh yes, we preserve them in vinegar.
Thank you, then.
So you all pass by them while they're eating.
We're supposed to go up to the other clearing, yes.
Okay, so about 20 minutes later, you come to a clearing, and give me a d20 roll.
Billy, d20. Yarr. Well, that was a little better. I got a 12 back. Hey, you re-rolled.
Oh, she re-rolled.
I don't know what.
Fucking savage.
It hit my pencil.
Well, re-roll it again then.
10.
10. Tara, you said you rolled a what?
12. Hi, Azzy.
So, oh, you should have seen it first last time as well, Tara. I'm sorry. So, Tara, what you end up seeing in the clearing is you see that there are four, which you could probably assume to be wizards. They are wearing black robes, and they have their faces. When you look at them, they have skulls tattooed on their faces, and you see their hands and stuff when they move their hands and talk. That they also have tattoos that outline every single bone on their body.
I whisper over my shoulder to Granny what the heck it was.
And she goes, I don't know, but they're probably waiting. She goes, don't be rude.
Are we supposed to be looking for these kind of people?
She goes, no.
Okay.
She goes, you'll know what we're looking for when it comes. Don't worry. So
did Evan stop or did he keep going?
Evan, like, when Evan sees them, like, he tenses up, but he doesn't say anything.
Okay. Do you stop or what are you doing?
I stop.
Okay.
I kind of poke you like, no.
So you hear this conversation between her and her grandmother about don't be rude. Do you ask any questions?
No.
Okay.
I just keep going.
So when you all come into the clearing, your boss / grandmother basically takes a seat in an empty part of the clearing. And this is a very large clearing, guys.
Okay.
Like, it's large enough that you could basically take an airplane and set it in this clearing without it being a problem. So there's space away.
Are you talking like a 747 airplane or like one of those personal jets?
Like a Cessna.
Okay.
Like, you could set a full Cessna in this thing, in the clearing.
That means a really big ass airplane. Just letting you know.
Cats want to play games these days.
Yes, they do.
So you come into the clearing, take a seat.
Mm-hmm.
About 10-15 minutes later, the two gentlemen that introduced themselves to you, they walk into the clearing and they see the figures and they kind of tense up as well, and then they find a spot in the clearing that's a little further away from them, but equal distance away from you all as well.
Okay.
Does anybody do or say anything at this time?
Looking around, surveying the surrounding, like what all's around us, and.
So give me a d20 roll then.
18.
So this clearing is in the middle of nowhere. It's grown up with weeds in some areas, but you notice that there are some areas that have been stomped flat. Like, there have been temporary structures at some point that were here, have been taken down not that long ago. You see that there's probably been signs of carriages moving through here, wagons. So it seems like this area is like some kind of high traffic area.
There's nothing kind of standouty.
Nothing really standouty, but you do notice in the distance that there are other paths that are out of the forest, or rather out of this clearing and into the forest, I should say.
Okay. You got the booger that was hanging off your nose.
Oh,
Stop rubbing your nose.
Thank God. I was figuring I was going to have to pick that bitch. Thank God the camera's not on. Anyways, so Lily, same question to you. Do you do or say anything?
No.
You looking for anything? Anything out of you? Wait and see what happens, right? So, an hour goes by, and then 2 hours, and your grandmother looks at Evan and goes, you may want to put up a tent. So she has Evan pull a tent out of a bag, and he starts assembling like this big, huge tent to like basically where it's not so much a tent, but would give you cover over yourselves and would allow you to basically like be shielded from the sun or the elements if it happened to rain. Yes.
My character doesn't have the stick.
Okay.
And then once she does,
you start whittling. Okay.
Whittling.
Okay. You want to give me a d20 roll?
Sure. Don't hit a code. 12.
So what are you doing with this stick? What are you trying to carve? Is there something you're trying to get done with this? Or?
No, I'm just carving it.
Okay, so as you're sitting there carving it, you happen to find that the shape of the stick is becoming very inappropriate.
Then I just like slice it in half and then just like toss it.
You don't know how that happened, but it happened.
And then I grab another one.
Okay.
And then just start like shaping it like a wizard wand.
Okay, so thankfully you're going in a direction this time. Okay, so in what intervenes to be about another hour or two, like she breaks out rations from like her bag and like a little canteen of tea and like a little jug of wine, like some bread that has like sandwich fixings baked into it. So like you all sit there and enjoy like a light dinner, and then it gets late, and then let me get another round of d20 rolls from you guys.
19. 14.
So Grandma ends up dozing off, and like she just lays out on the ground, like puts her bag under her head and just passes out. Evan says that he'll take position. You notice at no point in time does any member of your party light a fire.
I start lighting a fire.
When you go to light a fire, Evan tells you to put it out immediately.
Okay, I'm gonna put it out.
Okay. And he looks at you and goes, "It fucks with my eyes." He goes, "I see better at night."
Evan,
he goes, "You have." He looks at you and goes, he goes, "Well, you're so rude sometimes." He goes, "Don't worry." He goes, "When it's your turn to take watch, I'll be rude to you to let you know."
Okay.
Why don't you take a nap, Shorty? You seem kind of grumpy. Maybe it was all that cabin riding you've been doing.
I just go.
Don't even.
Just in no.
Don't even.
No mention. I'm just like.
Don't disturb Graham. Like I'm the only one who can call her Graham. But don't disturb her sleep.
About 30 or 40 minutes later, you pass out. In between muttering curses about Evan, this whole experience of dealing with people who demean your size and your gnomish hoorayness. So, in the middle of the night, you all are awakened. Well, rather because you made that big will save. You stayed awake. You were still awake in the middle of the night. You are alerted by this weird sound. It sounds like a tornado. And like those that have never heard a tornado before, it's this howling wind, and it's just like at first it's real soft, but it seems to be coming closer.
I jumped
and
to my
closer.
grandmother's side.
Okay.
And then I poked that one if she's close.
Okay, so you poke her. So when you wake up, Raven, you hear this howling wind, but you don't see any rain and you don't see any other weather effects. Because I know you're probably going to hop out and look outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, does anybody want to give me one of them handy rolls again?
I'm hitting with all of your 20! See? For real. 20.
Okay. Well, since none of you have dark vision. Ah! What you will see end up happening is this tornado sound is upon you by the time you see this huge shape coming towards the ground where you all are at, and there's this giant thing that looks like a ship attached to this giant figure. And right before it hits the ground, you see ropes thrown off, and you see people-shaped figures slide down said ropes.
I call grandmother by like matron, blah, 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 blah.
Like you wake her up and let her, and she goes, "Oh, our ride is here." So when she wakes up, Raven, take apart the tent. Evan, help her as well.
I take apart the tent.
Okay. So while you guys are taking apart the tent, in the darkness, your grandmother is approached by a figure wearing all black.
Right next to her.
You're right next to her?
Yeah.
So while she's standing there, a figure wearing all black with a gold mask on comes up. And he, she, or it is wearing furs that make it look like a giant polar bear. In fact, you swear that its fur was probably a giant bear, but it's white. And there's a gold face mask that covers its face.
I nudged her if she hadn't already turned around.
And she takes out a bag out of her robes, and she hands it to the figure. And he says something in the language you have never heard and don't know. Your grandmother replies in the same language, and she motions to all of you.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly say this out of character. How much money did your grandmother have?
You know, become the matriarch of a family without having any money.
Put it to you this way, Lily. Drow and elves live for a very long time, and she's very old.
As Stephanie would say, she's pretty crispy.
She's pretty crispy, yeah. She's very crispy.
But she doesn't look crispy.
No, she does not. So that should give you kind of an inkling.
Okay.
Now, I mean, if she was like a human or something, you know, like the amount of display of wealth you would see, like, would have to be like from a noble family or something.
Okay.
So,
yeah. After we get on board,
so she looks at you and goes, "I have my secrets." So when you get onto the ship, you actually are going to get the little hatchway drops out of the bottom, and there's a gangplank that comes out. And the black-robed wizard, or the black-robed whatever they are, skeleton people, I guess, would probably be the best thing. You think they might be wizards. Because, like I said, they're dressed like wizards. So this group gets on. So does the two gentlemen. And you all as well.
She's making notes on her phone.
Okay. So, with this ship ride, you all spend a week and a half aboard this ship. With the week and a half, what do you want to do, or how do you spend your days aboard?
Grandma trained me.
What about your grandma training you? For what?
Train me.
I just grab all sorts of sticks and then just start with.
Well, there's no sticks aboard, so you would have to go find somebody to find wood.
I just asked like one of the people like, hey, can I like.
So when you try to interact with those figures that are wearing the robe with the mask over their face, like They look at you and they try and communicate with you as best as they can. And after a few minutes, they do this with you, like where they shrug their shoulders and hold up their hands and kind of like motion, I'm sorry, and like walk off. Now, while you are wandering the ship looking for a piece of wood, you happen to come across one of these skeleton people. And you can tell from the shape of the person that it might be a woman.
I just go like, hi.
She looks at you and goes, oh, hello, no. She goes, I've never seen one of you before. And you notice, by the way, she speaks perfect Akhmarian. So you, like, when you speak to her and what's common, she speaks it right back to you with no trace of an accent.
I go, nice to meet you. What's your name?
She goes, I'm Theron Kananen. She goes, I'm one of the Queen's special guards.
You'd be like, Queen?
You'll never be able to spell it. Because just, what you can put down is Tharkan, which is Tharkan.
Tharkan?
Yeah.
A-R-A-N. There you go. And you're like, the Queen?
She goes, oh. She goes, I'm not from where you are.
Oh, okay.
Because you know at home that there's His Majesty and the royal family. But there's no queen in the hierarchy of royalty for Akhmaria. There is a queen, but she's not talked about. You don't think she would have these kind of people in her employ. Because give me another roll of that wonderful dice in your hand.
18.
So you kind of get the idea that this woman, wherever she's from, they're probably keeping a lot of secrets, and if she knows your language, you probably think like the less you say, the better with that kind of role. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay, and
but you do notice that she is sitting there, like, and she does have like a few pieces of scrap wood.
just say, hey, can I have some of that scrap with me?
She looks at you and goes, well, yes, why don't you sit down and tell me about yourself?
I'm just like, there's really not much to tell.
She goes, oh, well, tell me, how many gnomes usually live in your family unit?
Well, I know most of my family members.
Goes, well, how many of you usually live together? Like, how many members are in a gnome family?
I just give like the answer that my character knows.
So, like, in your family, there's about 8 family members that live under the roof.
I just.
Like in the back of your head, you might be able to like, my husband can't do this. Here's too much information. And we just embellish this. You don't want to tell her 8, maybe 18.
Oh wow, that's a large family. So she watches you whittle.
From what I remember of like a wizard wand.
So she's watching what you're doing. She goes, "That's a curious wand." She goes, "Where have you seen a wand like that before?" So you would probably be just whittling like a standard Othmarian wizard's wand that you probably see. You probably
like the one that
like the one that Stephanie's character has.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's very interested by it, and when you're done with it, she offers to buy it from you.
I say, it's something I saw, like something I bumped into accidentally.
Oh well, I'll buy that from you.
How much would you want?
She goes, I'll give you 6 ablari.
I don't know.
So when she takes these coins out, you can see that it is like you've seen where your family's had like a roast and like the leg bone is in the middle. So this is a bone, like a thigh bone or some kind of leg bone or arm bone that's basically been cut into a section that's about as thick as a coin, which is about it's about the width of like a standard, like quarter. And it has gold imprinted on it, and it has the image of like a chair on one side, and like you see one of the other coins on the other side, and it has like a skeleton on the other side that's dancing with a flute in its mouth.
Okay. I give her one.
And she hands you the 6 coins.
I just stuff it.
Okay. So we'll say that's passed. So your grandmother,
I'm thinking
since
grandma.
this trained me in something, your grandmother decides she's going to teach you ballroom dancing. And Evan is your partner. So give me some D20 rolls. If you have multiple D20 rolls over there, you may want to roll like 4 of them at the same time. And I'll tell you what hilariousness shall ensue or whether this is a grand dance.
Really, it's my rolls, not yours. No, you can't.
Just not looking.
So there is a 2, a 17, and 2 14.
It gets worse.
I step on a foot, or he steps on mine.
2, 5, 8, and 7. So even with his dexterity bonus and your dexterity bonus, which you would be adding, let's see, which is like a 3. So this doesn't go very well at all. And so like after about an hour and a half of sore feet and you two stepping on one another, and at one point you fall to the floor in what would awkwardly be called a lover's embrace.
Oh,
and it's one of those moments of I'm sorry. I didn't realize your hand was there. No. So after a couple of these incidents, and Raven has been witness to some of this as well.
Oh,
to its hilariousness.
Okay, my question.
Because you've returned at some point and witnessed this ballroom dancing debacle. So we'll say a few more days go by of you all ducking cabins, and one of the things that you notice is that there are no meals in your room. So if you want to eat, you have to actually go out to where the crew eats. And your grandmother actually does this in the evening time. So one evening while you go to escort her to dinner, and she's sitting there, the crew are no longer wearing their mask, and you can see that they are humans. And they are covered in scars, tattoos, and all kinds of weird markings. But every single one of them wears like furs. And they're bare furs and they're white. You can see where they have just different collections of these furs on. And they do, like when she sits down, they hand her a bowl of soup. Or it's rather a stew. Do you all sit down as well or take any meal? So when offered a bowl of it, do you eat any of it?
I look over and see if she's eating it first.
Your grandmother is eating it, and she's kind of picking at it. Lily, do you sit down and eat as well?
my quick question is Evan sitting and eating?
Oh, Evan will sit down and he'll sit there and poke it a few times and then proceed to eat it.
I sit next to him,
Okay.
eat some of it, and just be like, "Hey, Evan, how's that ballroom dancing going?"
He goes, do you know, I think there might be funny things in the food. He looks at you and goes, does this look like a mushroom? And he holds it up on a fork. Or is this a green bean? I can't figure it out.
I'm not telling
He goes, okay, well, the mystery is in eating it anyways.
I'm also doing what he's doing, poking around, seeing what
Okay.
these are.
So while you are eating, that woman that you were talking to before she walks up and she sits at the table with you all, and she's joined by two others of them, and they appear to be male.
I look up at them as they walk up,
and they nod their head at you, they sit down and they start eating next to you. Erin looks at you and goes, so what do you all think of dinner? She goes, oh, don't worry about it. They don't speak our language.
It's nice.
So is she speaking in Gnomish?
So she'd probably be speaking common. You notice that this woman speaks Akhmarian, which is common for you all, very well. She looks at you and goes, I've never seen a pixie before. I've only seen a skeleton of one with a jaw.
That's kind of creepy.
She goes, tell me, is it true that you all can turn invisible?
I don't know. I've never tried, and I'm honestly only been in this form for... Well, let's just say I wasn't born this way.
Really? Tell me, what happened?
I don't know. Some sort of storm. I leave it at that.
Okay. So she starts making conversation with Evan in Undercommon.
Is that one of the ones that I know?
Yes, it is.
I'm listening.
So she asks Evan, she goes, are your friends always discarded? And he goes, I don't know. I don't think they trust you. And he goes, it's not often we see 2 millions.
Josh, I just have to say out of character.
Mm-hmm.
My character is somewhat a little shy.
Okay.
But also willing to keep fun if she can.
Alrighty.
So what are 2 million? I speak in Undercommon back to her.
She looks at you and she goes, well, that's where we're from. She goes, we're from Tumlia.
Okay.
She goes, it's a mountain city to the north.
This is all, for lack of phrasing that would be appropriate, but it says, this is all Greek to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Translated to whatever being said there.
So you basically tell her that you've never heard or seen these places?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, of course not. She goes, you all would have to cross the red blasted lands, past the ghost tower of the east. Your grandmother looks up and goes, oh, I've been there. She goes, I've seen the ghost tower of the east. She goes, it's a beautiful white tower that looks like it's made out of ivory. It causes ghosts to appear. And the woman looks at her and goes, oh, actually, it causes ghosts to manifest when they come near it. She goes, oh, I did not know that. She goes, oh, yes, and she...
Are we going to be going by there?
Give me a D20 knowledge arcana roll if anybody has it.
I think I do. Is it on the sheet there?
Let's take a look.
Do you have knowledge arcana?
No, Tara, you don't.
Okay,
but you can do a straight out knowledge roll. I mean, the both of you could. I
mean, 19.
What is it called?
Knowledge.
Just give me a straight out D20 roll.
Roll it. Roll that beautiful thing, Cody.
What'd you roll, Tara?
19. And she got a 9.
So, Bluebell, you would have, in the past, heard your grandmother and grandfather, your mother's parents, talking about weird sites and places within the localized area that's recorded in the Empire. Like, so beyond the elven lands where they come from or where they were children, there's more of the Forest of Mist. Then there's this strange pine forest that's like hills and everything, and the soil is like this unnatural red color. And it floods all the time, and it's not a very acceptable place to make a home. So a lot of races avoid this area. The only one that really lives within this area is like some race, but you don't remember their. Well, no, with that role you actually remember what they're called. You know that past where the Raptorian village of Wind Cradle is, that this white stone tower exists.
So I'm gonna be all like, is that around where Blah is?
So when you start naming out the sites, like Therian looks at you and goes, "Yes." She goes, "It's past Wind Cradle, past the Elven Home,
and then past the blah blah blah,
past into the Red Blasted Lands, and they're in the hills of what in our world is Peachtree City, aka one of the outskirts suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia." Yeah. There is this giant 12-story white ivory tower. And it's in the middle of the woods, and any ghosts that come near it
Does Granny give me a version
manifest.
When I work out like some of those places?
No, but she's very impressed that you know it. And she goes, and then it's into the Sleeping Dragon Mountains. And then when you enter our section of the mountains, it's known as the Blackstone Mountains. So basically on up into the Rocky Mountains. Yeah. So like the area like in our world that you think it would probably be somewhere in Tennessee or Kentucky. Like probably somewhere up there in the border between them. But she doesn't give you enough information to really say, aha. Okay. So the rest of this dinner conversation concludes and the rest of the crew heads out. And the Tumblians excuse themselves as a group. They gather and they leave as a group. And
once I finish my stuff, I just go back to my room with.
Okay.
And do I have any more of that wood scrap?
You have more wood scrap, yeah.
I just start whittling them into wands.
Aren't you supposed to be protecting somebody?
Oh yeah.
Well, there's nothing really going on in the ship, so I mean, like even Grandma goes back to the room that you all share, and like goes into her hammock and like goes to sleep. So the next few days kind of pass without any time.
I she can teach me some about that race.
So she looks at Eben, and Eben will tell you that he has never seen, like he thinks about it for a few seconds and he goes, I've never seen their city and I've never seen one of their cities. Me and Harold came to a camp and he like same area kind of mentions like the Tennessee area. And he mentions that while they were there, they were chasing a renegade wizard. And when they came to this camp, there were necromancers and there were undead creatures everywhere. And when the rogue wizard basically was captured by them, they were torn apart by this undead creatures that were basically protecting these people. And when they went to go confront them, the wizards that they had seen, these necromancers, were attacked by a group that were tattooed just like the ones that you all have seen aboard the ship. And when him and Harold were questioned by them as to who they were and what they were doing so close to their lands, he told them about the renegade wizard that they were chasing. They said that they were also chasing renegades of their kind, and that they had refused to accept their queen's conditions and were outcasted. And rather than leaving, they chose to stick around. And well, that wasn't one of the options.
Yeah, and I want to be taught the language and stuff.
He does not know. He tells you, I don't know their language.
Grandma's already snoring, isn't she?
Yeah.
Breathing heavily.
So in the days that follow, if you ask your grandmother if she knows it, she says that she does not.
But you spoke with her.
She goes, when she spoke to the captain, and if she spoke to her, she would have spoke to her in common.
Oh, okay.
Because she does not know their language.
Okay.
Because there's only one group of people that know that language, and that's the Tumblians.
Okay.
And the Tumblians do not teach other non-Tumblians for very good reasons. So this trip has passed uneventfully, and you all.
You peed yourself? No! It was
Yes!
raspberry tea!
She peed herself. Yes!
No.
She raspberried herself.
She
peed herself.
I did not make sure of myself.
So,
I did not make sure.
early one morning, you all are disturbed by the sounds of running feet out in the hallway.
I jumped up and then go to Grandma's side and yep.
So you all have a window that you can be able to see out of your cabin. There are other windows so you can be able to see, or you can be able to go out into the hallway. And your grandmother goes, "Well, look out and see what's happening."
So what happens?
Okay.
I go ahead and go over to the window since Stumble's over there, is it?
When you go to the window and you draw aside the curtain, you see that the huge forest of trees is interrupted by this big, huge open field that you can see. And it looks like the field has been burnt.
So I'm relaying what I'm seeing in real time.
I've seen a burnt field, and we look like we're landing. And oh, look, we're landing.
I'm like, oh, as I snap out of being sleepy and whatnot. Okay. I grab all the scraps and stuff that was little left.
But it's been a few days, so you have a couple of stuff that you made out of it. You just tuck it away into your bag?
Yes.
Okay. So you feel that motion of the ship basically coming down underneath you. Anybody like to give me a D20 roll?
Yeah, make it a moment. 20! She had a 14.
14? Okay, nobody falls over and nobody stumbles or anything. No. So after a few minutes after you feel that motion, there is a knock on the door, and one of the figures in the mask says something, and leaves the door open and walks off. And you hear him this figure repeat the same thing in a male voice.
Grandma, what did he say?
She goes, "Oh, we've arrived."
Okay. Can you teach me that language?
She goes, "I can teach you Ruskian."
Appreciate it. Wanna up my repertoire.
Okay. So if you want to learn Ruskian, the next time you level up, you have to spend a skill slot in it. Mm-hmm. And that would be you basically mastering it as read, write.
Okay.
Rather, the only way that you'd be able to learn it is to speak, because as far as you know, there's not a written version. Your grandmother doesn't know it. So she can teach you to speak it. Mm-hmm. So like I said, the next time you level up, you just have to select that in there. Yeah. So
can you make a side note of that for me?
Yeah, I can make a side note of that for you. So Raven, you and Evan are going to lead the way out of the ship.
Okay. I just continue.
So Raven, when you exit the ship, you see a big, huge burnt field. Do you look around beyond that?
I somewhat look around to see if there's like anyone else here.
In the distance, you see on the other end of this burnt field, there is this collection of buildings. And some of them, using the word building would be a sorry statement to call it a building. It's like a lean-to. There's
the
this
shoddy-looking places.
Smoke.
To get out to your dad's place.
There's smoke hanging everywhere. And as the wind shifts towards you all, you smell the smell of sewage. And when your grandmother gets out of the ship, she looks at you and goes, "Behold, I give you the town of Innsmouth." And she goes, "Make sure you have your hands on your weapons."
What is it?
Is my pouch of holding tucked
your
up
bag of holding?
Yeah. Bag, yeah. Is it
tucked
up underneath the armor, so it can't be?
Yeah, you can tuck it up in your armor.
Yeah.
So
I have one dagger in one hand and the short sword in the other.
The two gentlemen that you didn't really see during the flight, the two Roman looking gentlemen, the one in white, Timurius, he runs up to you and goes, "Hail, strangers, may we walk together?" He goes, "A greater group of us stand less of a chance of being assaulted."
Okay. I look over at Evan and Graham to see what their ideas.
Yeah, like Evan nods at you. What? Leave alone then.
What? Up there?
Leave things alone then.
As you stare at it.
Okay, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So, you all are looking at this sorry shape of a town, collection of buildings, smoke hanging over, and the closer you get, the stronger the smell of sewage, trash, and just filth. Is all you can smell.
Okay. Keep following the group. Try to stay kind of close to Graham.
So as you come in the shadow of some of the buildings, you see people that have rags on, and some of them have canes that are missing eye and limbs, and they turn to you and start almost in a crowd of voices at once. They look at you and they start begging for money, and one of them runs up to you and goes, "Lead you through town, miss. Only a few coins."
Now.
Give me a d20 roll with that.
Yeah, that didn't work very well.
What's your roll?
3.
Plus a 7.
So it's 10.
Yeah, it's the beggar looks at you for a few seconds, kind of wants to say something else, and just sighs and walks back to the group that the rest of them with, but they continue begging and stuff.
They keep walking along.
Your grandmother's quick to make sure that she keeps walking as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Evan has his hand on his sword and shows them his sword at one point.
That's what I'm doing with my dagger and sword.
Okay. So after a few minutes, you get past this group, and you can see that the crowds here are human. There's no elves. You don't see any dwarves. Or at least you don't see any dwarves like mountain dwarves or deep dwarves. You see gray dwarves. You see a few drow. You see ogres, goblins. And at one point, you see a very tall creature, and I need you both to give me a d20 roll.
Dude, this guy does not like me at the moment.
Nice.
Mm.
So, Bluebell, like, you quite literally have a fear-inducing moment when all of a sudden, like, you look up and you see a creature that's taller than any other being that you've ever fucking
Do I disappear at that
seen
moment as I'm like,
before. So, give me another d20 roll. What was it?
6
It was 6.
or 14?
You take the 14. It's a fucking giant. You've never seen a giant before. You've only heard about what a giant is. There are no giants in Umeria.
Chill.
Leave the fucking spider alone.
Like a spider? No, it's probably one of those, like...
Spiders are good signs inside the house.
It's one of those, like, mosquito hawk butterflies.
Yeah.
Like,
It is
chill.
a giant.
So do I disappear?
Do you choose to disappear? Because that's at will. So when you disappear, like, you kind of like just whoop, kind of a la Harry Potter and the Cloak of Invisibility. Not that the giant notices at all.
I'm sure I'm like a tiny speck of dirt in his vision.
Like, he's got other things going on. In fact, like, he's greeted by another large creature, and they walk off in another direction.
What in the... I'm still, like, invisible, like, and I'm like, what? Wait.
And she goes, I hear you, Bluebell, but where are you?
Okay, I go back to normal again.
What did you do that for?
I'm sorry. What the hell? Like, oh my god.
She goes, they're giants. She goes, you're seeing part of the world that most people don't get to see.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So the two Roman-esque people,
Do they look at me funny because I just disappeared and reappeared?
No.
Okay.
Like, they don't notice you at all, really.
Okay.
Like, they seem to be looking around for something, and they look at your grandmother and say, well, we have other business to attend to. Wish you well, stranger. She goes, well, the same to you. Be careful out there. So they disappear into this crowd of mixed races, and your grandmother looks at you too and goes, well, it's time that we get to be going where we need to be.
All right, let's go.
So when she leads the way, she is actually headed in that direction that those two creatures were headed.
Okay.
So when you are on this walk and she is leading the way, you all come to a set of gates with a massive wall. And there is a single wooden door, big enough for a giant, has doors in it big enough for any race. And there is a motley assortment of goblins, hobgoblins, ogres, minotaurs. There's a cyclops, like, sitting outside this gate. And the door is closed.
Right then. Through the doors?
And there is no line or anything seemingly get in through these doors.
I walk right up to the doors, if that's where we're going.
So your grandmother puts her hand out to stop you.
Okay.
And she looks at the tall ogre and she goes, open the door. And he holds his hand out and she goes, not before the door is open. Do your job. He grunts at her and he kicks a goblin. The goblin goes running, scurrying to open the door. And he holds his hand out again and she gives him a gold piece. And he shakes his head and goes. She sighs and goes, what? One for each one of your filthy fingers? And he smiles and goes, shakes his head. So she hands him 4 more pieces and then lets you all pass. And you notice that when you pass that they wear the guard. Like, they wear city guard implements. But these don't look like anybody that your city guard would ever employ. because you notice that they are playing dice and they're drinking on duty, which is normal. But you notice that they're not fully attending to the other things that are going on. As you notice, the beggars, the fell.
Mm-hmm.
So you all pass through the gates, and you come into a cobbled stone district where the buildings are not ramshackled, but instead the city is much more laid out, and your grandmother leads the way towards a very large mansion. And in the closing time of our session this evening.
No fucking fighting?
No fucking fighting. Welcome to hell. You get to the mansion doors of a very large mansion. And your grandmother knocks on the door. And the door is answered by an elf. And that's where we'll leave it.
No fighting?
No fighting.
Oh.
Ha! Because not everything has a fight with it.
Come on. How am I supposed to get a